Welcome to Toffee Blue View, your source for all things Everton. Gerry, Max, Terry, we're here, and we need to talk about Marco Silva. How's he done? He's had almost half a season to implement, work with his players, some players he brought in, implement a system. So let's talk about that. Let's start with that because I think all three of us would say when you watch the team play, it's an improved game, period. But let's start with style and system. Typically runs that kind of I guess it's a 4-2-3-1, sometimes shifting to like a 4-3-3, you know what I mean? It just kind of depends, but typically he's running four at the back. So Terry, obviously we feel like this is a more exciting team to watch as opposed to last season, which was like primarily defensive. How do you feel like the improvements how we've improved in terms of style and system under Marco?
Oh, there's a universe of difference between what we're seeing now and the team that Sam Allardyce left. I mean, this is what we wanted. We wanted not just, we want to play nice attacking football and that's it. That's the roof of what we want. We're actually seeing something to get behind, something you can see growing and something you can see getting better as the players improve. The amount of distance covered by Silva and Brands in a couple of months is just massive. I mean, we went from being basically a depressed fan base for most of last season, and then towards the end it turned, absolutely nasty, like a chance against the manager at Goodison Park and all that. Whereas now, I think there's sort of the fans are a little bit less jaded now because they can see what they've been missing for so long. Like, yeah, there's reason to enjoy going the match again because there's going to be attacking football. There's going to be good players on the pitch who get you up off your feet. Like some of the players he brought in, like Andre Gomez is one of the easiest. He just makes you enjoy watching the match because he's so smooth on the ball. A world of difference from these performances that we had last season where you've just got, nothing against him but Rooney just labouring about the pitch, trying his best to sort of find Yannick Bolasie on the left hand side. It's just like, it's a world better. Like we've come further in that regard than I thought we would in this amount of time. I don't think we have any right to be this much better to watch than we were not even 6 months ago.
But Max, how are you feeling about just the general style of play that Silva's bringing to pretty much every match?
No, at least it is a style of play.
Yeah,
I think that's the main thing. Like I hate like using Martinez as a reference point, but in that first season under Martinez, things went really well, and it is a joy to see the fullbacks bomb on and us using the flanks to play this attacking football that we come to love, particularly under we seen it under David Moyes with Baines and Pina and just how fantastic they were. You bringing in Luca Dean, who looked like an able deputy for Leighton Baines and looked like to be approaching the prime of his career. Obviously, we've got this conundrum going on at right back, but you trust the hierarchy of the club now to find someone to, match the thunder of that left hand side. In terms of the centre of the pitch, it's a delight because we're not split in two as often. How many times under Allardyce last season did the simple ball straight down the middle split us wide open? We've got Idrissa Gueye as the labourer, and we've got Andre Gomez, who has the ability to create magic, calm the game down, and push the ball forward. And the attacking players now are quick, which was something that we didn't have under Allardyce. We really lack pace. And something that I do first, it's really worth flagging up, but I think the average age of our squad has dropped dramatically just over these last 6 months. Yeah, don't quote me on this, but I heard someone say the other day we're something like the second youngest team in the league, which is obviously something that the fans will fully get behind. Evertonians are weird as a fan base. I think we often refer to this school of science. We want to see beautiful football played by younger players, and we've atypically always had a kind of British base, and I think that's going out going out the window a bit now with the with the globalization of the game and just the way the Premier League's going. But in terms of direction, we are going forward now rather than sideways and backwards.
Yeah, I think a manager like our previous manager, not going to give him airtime, but that points at any cost mentality. Set it up, doesn't matter, we got a point. Doesn't matter, that particular mentality. I think for some clubs, maybe a club that has just been promoted, maybe that kind of mentality is acceptable. Maybe it works. But for a club that has a history, a club that has some money now, a club that's got a new stadium coming, that kind of mentality does not work. It's not acceptable for supporters, In
that role, in that occupation of manager, you've got to shoulder responsibility, and that is something that Sam Allardyce just refused to do. Every single week it'd be, deflected this way, deflected that way.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only so much I can do. It's all down to the players.
Yeah.
Whereas with Marco now, there seems to be, if we do get beat or if we do drop points, there seems to be, throwing up of the hands. It's like, okay, he knows himself. I think, fingers crossed, touch wood, he is in it for the long term, and surely he knows this is only early doors in terms of the project that we're building and what we want to achieve. And I think a long way, it goes a long way to shoulder some responsibility from that manager / head coach role, because that's what it is really, isn't it? Obviously with Brands as the director of football, he's very much a head coach and in charge of the footballing side of things. And I know it's weird because whenever you talk about Silva, I feel like you've always got to talk about the external hierarchy of the club and the changes that have been made. I think we're so much more stable now, and that will stand us in good stead going forward.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to mention that is nice is when you play against squads that maybe more money has been put into, and so technically they're supposed to be more talented, we're getting chances to score goals. It's not a situation where we're literally playing for a scoreless draw and we get no chances on goal, and we're okay with that. No, that never happens. We are going out there to beat everybody, regardless. Now, we may be a little more conservative, but we're still taking chances. I think that mentality, I like that mentality. You go out there to beat everybody. It's not expected defeats. That's not a thing for Silva, which I love. Let's talk about our attack in terms of scoring goals and whatnot. The signings that have been made, obviously, Richarlison is a good example. Terry, our attack's a little bit more fun to watch this season, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's the most changed of the positions of the pitch. I think up front, lads, still not there, still not perfect. I mean, last season they had a really difficult job on the club. They botched it badly anyway, but they had to replace a player in Lukaku who the whole team had been built around. Like we saw how bad we were without him and how much we were set up to sort of bring out his strengths and hide his weaknesses, and we've started to see that now from Lukaku at Man United, that it went both ways. Without the team built to suit him, he's not as good a player. So last season we brought in Sandro, who hardly kicked the ball, and if he did get it, he got pushed off it anyway. Then we tried to basically replace Lukaku's goals with midfield players, so the attack was just so weak last season. And that's something Silva has addressed straight away. He's gone out and he's spent money on Richarlison, a player he really, he's got faith in. He brought him to the country, and they've got this special relationship between each other. He sees him as this young, burgeoning superstar player. Went out and got Bernard, which took everyone by surprise. If you can remember when the story broke about Bernard, that he might be he hadn't even been linked with us in the papers very much or any media at all. He just sort of one night at about, I remember it that well. At one night at about 7-8 o'clock, it just came up on Twitter that Everton are going to sign Bernard, and I think like 2 days later he was signed, and he's adapting quite well. He's yet to get majorly involved in like the goals or the assists, but I thought he'd take best part of a season just to get to grips with the physicality of the league, considering his size, but he's a really hard-working, really industrious player, and I think it's only a matter of time before he starts, racking up the stats. And the attack is a mile different. When you were watching last season, Balassi fall over the ball, and poor Calvert-Lewin who was doing a thankless task of trying to do the job of three strikers, and it only really improved when we got Tosin and Walcott. But the fact now that Tosin and Walcott are two players with question marks over them starting because we've improved that much. Lookman's come back and he's playing really well, and then the other two Brazilian players. So it's changed a lot, and I long may it continue. There's still more players to buy, hopefully in January. And yeah, I mean the attack was probably the first thing that needed fixing about that team that Allardyce left.
Max, you in agreement with all that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you said before, like Silva's philosophy of football by default creates chances. Like I just think naturally, we are going to be a team that creates chances because he's so forward thinking. And just to comment on his man management skills again, I think the tales of Ademola Lookman is a perfect example of how he's managed to get all the players on his side, because by all reports we were pretty much a split camp after the monstrosity of last season. To have such a gem of Ademola Lookman look like he's playing for the shirt now and being one of the better players when he's coming off the bench and he looks hungry, you've got to credit the manager for that too. As Teddy said, we're still not there yet, but we've said this countless times over the last couple of weeks. We're needing that world-class star to lead the line that'll bag and guarantees, even if it's not goals, assists, because we are looking not dry, because I know Richarlison's got 8, but we're dependent on Sigurdsson chipping in and things like this. So incremental improvements, but a lot better than last season.
Yeah, I think the main thing about our attack for me is if we can come up with more ways to score. Very often we look like when we need a goal, going down the wings, crossing repeatedly, going back, crossing, and it's pretty frustrating to watch at times when it feels like every single one of our crosses is going straight to the opposition, especially the ones that are coming from the right. But I think that's something that'll be addressed soon, though. Our defense, I think a lot of people, as soon as Silva was brought in, there were some, I thought they were a little bit lazy, the comparisons from him to Martinez, basically saying, it's all going to be about scoring goals, we're going to ship a bunch of goals. In the beginning we did, especially on set pieces, especially on corners. That it's almost like our guys have begun to settle in with the zonal marking, and they're starting to figure out the system, which is fantastic. And we're not allowing as much in terms of silly goals. Now it's like they're earning their goals at least. It's not like we're getting clean sheets lately. So Terry, a little bit on our defensive style. And where we're sitting right now.
Defensively or midfield?
You know what? Let's do both. Do both, because I feel like midfield plays into that. You know what I mean? Especially like with Idrissa Gueye and Gomez, frankly.
Yeah, well, that's improved as well a great deal, considering Sam Allardyce is meant to be this master of defence, which we didn't see when he was here. So it took a while. Like at first, that was a major problem. It was like, oh no, like you touched on it then, like the comparison with Martinez. People were concerned, like we didn't want this again, where we looked better going forward, but it was built on sand because we kept conceding. But until this recent run of games, the defence had actually started to click, and not just a set group of players either. It looked really good when it had Keenan Zuma, And now it looks, pretty good with Keane and Mina too. The last game notwithstanding, but it's just honestly, it's as simple as I don't even think he's changed the style that much. It's just better players. There is a world of difference with having Williams and Martina as your left centre back and left back compared to having Mina or Zuma alongside Luka Dean. These are players that he signed that have taken us up a level, and just the most appropriate player to bring up after that would be Andre Gomez, because even offensively, obviously he's really potent because he's linking a lot of the attacks, and he's often the pass before the assist, that kind of thing, and he's got the other assist as well. But he's a perfect outball. Every time the defence are under any pressure, they look to find him, and when they find him, he just gets everyone out of danger. He just transitions the ball into a different part of the pitch. If he gets pressured on his right foot, he just literally shifts his body and then sprays it with his left, and vice versa. He calms the whole team down. The team are comfortable in possession when they can see him with a pass, because they know if they give it to him, they won't lose it. So it's took a while as the players started to come into the team slowly. The likes of Mina, the likes of Gomez, to get over injuries, but I think the defence is getting there now. It's a lot better than it was at the start of the season, and it's had a bit of a wobble of late, but I think it'll click back again soon. I just think it has got a weakness at right back that needs sorting out.
Indeed. I will agree. Better players, huge part of it. I also think Silva is really detail oriented in terms of making sure people know their roles. Look, situationally, this is what you're going to be doing at this time. All right? I feel like he really, really is very specific. And, yeah, I love seeing that from a coach when they're that specific about their details. I get the vibe that Sam wasn't at many practices last season. So that's a thing. How can you connect with players if you've got, your other coaches doing all the work for you? Whatever. Bygone era. It's old news. So, Max, talk a little bit about how the signings for this system. I think that's one of the things that we were kind of getting into there. The idea that he's made specific signings to fit how he wants to play.
Yeah, no, they were huge, and they're arguably what the entire system revolved around. I was preparing myself to comment on the defensive and midfield situation, but I suppose it ties into it. The fact that he managed to get two centre halves in on deadline day, like who'd have ever thought of that in your wildest dreams? Who's thinking we're getting Gerry, Mina and Kurt Zuma? And it's really impressive. And obviously the targets are identified and put forward by Marcel Brands, and Silva seemed to be on the same wavelength as him. And it bodes well for us going forward. Thing is as well, I think not just the new signings, but each and every player now, even the ones that he's inherited, there seems to be like a built-in defensive work ethic there. Like, particularly, we mentioned like the likes of Bernard as well, which you wouldn't expect the defensive work rate from. Sigurdsson's another one. I think the general fitness of the teams improved massively as well, particularly for them games. The most successful case being that 0-0 at Chelsea away, where you press them to the halfway, keep them caged, stay disciplined. There seem to be, the players look disciplined. I think that's the point that I'm trying to get to. They seem, as you say, they seem like they've been well versed in a detailed fashion of what their roles is and what's expected of them, and it's unlikely that they won't match those standards each game.
Yeah, enthusiastic as well. As you alluded to, that man management. The players who are playing all seem like they want to be there, which is nice. I'm sure there are players who are not playing who are ready to peace out and head to France or somewhere else. But there's just this contagious enthusiasm, which is really great to see on those Everton unseen videos. Love that.
I think that's massive because that was very much missing last season, and the fact that he's united the camp is just it. I think that cannot be understated how important that is for the supporters as much as anything, because it's easier to get behind a team that feels like they're getting behind themselves, whereas it was depressing last season. Just look, it was hard to be enthusiastic about a club that were managed by Sam Allardyce and all the players didn't want to be there and hated it. Now you've got, you know, Gerry Mina at the training ground, like jumping all over, like Luca Dean when he nutmegged them in training and all that. It's just everything he Silva has. The club hit the reset button in the summer, and Silva he's done a lot more than he has any right to do at this point. I thought we'd be a lot further back than we are in the redevelopment of the club.
Our own enthusiasm for the second half of the season. I see this as being a situation that's only going to continue to get better. Terry's nodding his head. Max is nodding his head. We agree, guys?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That just sounds lovely. That's nice, you know. Because, like I said, last season was not too far away. When you read interviews from like people like Davy Clausen, who was very frank about what last season was like, that just sounds like a nightmare, you know. And it totally showed. It showed. So yeah. So I'd say half season review, half year review for Silva. Good marks. Really good marks. You know, it's not perfect, but I mean, aside from being like a straight up miracle worker, how would it be? If you're digging the videos, please subscribe. We'd prefer it if you did. It'd be nice. Yeah, so check out Terry on the Liverpool Echo Fan Jury. He'll tell you on his Twitter. Check out Max on the Toffee Blues website, where he'll do analysis on there. Check his Twitter for where he's going to show up there too. All right, so that's our last video. If you want to stay up with what we're doing, we've got a quiz. If you know your history, it's going to be on the podcast, so switch over to the podcast now. All right, so that's it. We'll talk to you later on this week. So bye.